Welcome back to the Spitfire Podcast. I'm your host, Mozo. We all know that AI is touching every element of our lives nowadays. And that's why today we brought our Spitfire experts to chat more about how AI can actually impact businesses. And right now I'm going to hand over to our strategic director, Alison, who will be guiding our understanding in this topic. Over to you, Ali.
Thanks, Motso. So today, we're going to be talking AI.
Yep.
And I know this is a topic that all of you are quite passionate about, including you, Motso. So please chip in.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a lot to say. And I don't know if moderating is going to be the right word. I don't know if I'm going to be a referee. Hopefully just a moderator. And I think just to kick it off is want each of you to just quickly introduce yourself briefly to our audience.
Starting with me.
I'm looking at Sharon.
So I'm Sharon Sugarman. I'm the head of inbound success here at HubSpot. It's Spit. You can see where my brain is. I work a lot with HubSpot.
Sharon does live in HubSpot.
I do live in HubSpot. I do everything that has to do with HubSpot. And yeah, I love doing everything to do with HubSpot. So I'm excited to chat a bit about the AI functionality there.
I'm Darren, co-founder and CEO of Spitfire, and I do everything that no one else wants to do. I'm very involved with clients and love technology. Big HubSpot fan, so looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah, cool. My name is Brandon, and I am the newly appointed AI specialist at Spitfire.
I'm Marlene, lead solutions architect at Spitfire Inbound. So you'll likely see me also in your HubSpot portal or doing some portal audits and integration stuff and just technical consulting.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. One of the things that we always talk about at Spitfire when we talk about AI is the importance of having an AI manifesto.
I think having a manifesto is important amongst a group of people in AI space because, I mean, as Darren mentioned, I was a developer. So like the tech space is something that I'm pretty well accustomed to, and I think a lot of us are pretty well accustomed to it in the space that we operate. And we know that these tools, whether it's AI or whether it's automation platforms or websites or whatever, they're all just tools at the end of the day, and they're only as good as the professionals that we have powering those tools. And I think that that's probably something that we'll unpack through the course of this discussion a lot more. But essentially the message there is that if we as an organization and if the organizations that we connect with and organizations of the listeners are wanting to make the most out of AI, it's the people that need to be aligned on how we approach that. It's the people that need to be aligned on what we want to get out of it, what are the pitfalls to look out for, how to use it to empower those around us. And so that's what the manifesto represents. So it's an aligned sort of headspace around the concept of AI and an agreed way that we approach it. And I think it's important to have those core values and principles aligned because and as I said, it's just a tool at the end of the day, and there's many different ways that you can use the tool. So manifesto just brings us into a similar headspace.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I can maybe just add to that, I think a manifesto gives you the guiding principles that align the vectors, so it gets everybody moving in a similar direction, but it doesn't constrain the thinking. Yeah, so it keeps people on track, but still allows you to be experimental in that approach.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's also got a very your ethical boundaries, which I think are really important in any new space. And like you say, it allows you to experiment, but there are lines that you don't cross. And that's what those principles are there for. We speak a lot about using AI with purpose. So I'm going to literally get each of you to give me one sentence about why or what it means to you when we say you need to use AI with purpose. And I'm going to start with Sharon.
One sentence. I think that's very hard.
Can be a long sentence or a short sentence, or even one word.
So I think in everything you do should be with purpose. But with AI, if you do not have purpose, you run the risk of putting yourself in a space where what comes out at the other end is irrelevant, is copied, is not unique. And what we want is to have a unique experience regardless of where the input came from.
The purpose that sits behind AI is creating the space for people to create more eureka moments, right? So making the most out of those tools or utilizing those tools to get the most out of the experts that power them, and freeing people up from doing mindless, repetitive work, and giving them, that space to think at a higher level and apply themselves at a higher level. I think that's where the power sits for me.
Marlene?
I think when you consider the AI within the technology and tool space, you need to be strategic about it. So planning, what are you trying to solve for? What does success look like? And then ultimately, how can AI improve either your decisions or processes? So strategic thinking first.
Okay, done.
So mine is all about efficiency and accuracy. So I use it personally to shortcut my process. So things that I would do that were time consuming, I can get done a lot faster using AI, and I can make repetitive tasks a lot more accurate. So I'm not good at following process.
Really?
Believe it or not, you'd be surprised, but having a tool that will replicate that for you and using it as an assistant, as a team member, I think is really important for me in my daily work. It's just given me so much more flexibility with the way I work, and to not have to sit down and type something, but to be able to put a brief in like I would do it with a human. I can talk to it and it'll give me a summary that's accurate and enriched. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And if you can just find one simple application that saves you 15 minutes a day, that gives you 15 minutes to find another application that can save you an hour. And the knock-on effect of that is huge in an organization.
So there's a lot that stuck with me there, but the one thing is about process. And somebody who's very good at process is Sharon. So Sharon is a stickler for following process. From an AI point of view, do you also use AI to help you with process? Like, how do you personally use AI?
I agree. The fact that there's a lot of repetitive tasks that need to go into a process. What I love to use AI for is, like Darren said, putting in that brief and having it come out the other end with ideas. So I don't always take what the AI gives me, but I find that it sparks an idea that then puts me into another side of things. And following a process while you're using AI, or using AI to help you augment your process and give you ideas on how you can do your process better, is a really, really great way of doing it. And for me, sometimes when you are really busy and you've got a bunch of things in your head and you just need something to put it into a structure, I find that's really great with AI, where I can kind of go, this is what I want to say, put it into a nice structure, or 5 bullet points for me so that I can put it into my process.
So for you, Marlene, AI and diagramming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Miro particularly is not an ad. Yeah, diagramming with the AI functionality now available, you can produce Word documents off of a diagram, and vice versa. You can put in a bunch of words and it can spit out the diagram. But like Sharon said, it doesn't mean or will result in anything if there's no strategy or purpose behind it. And yeah.
Yeah, so if your inputs are wrong or misaligned. I heard a really interesting quote the other day. It said, if you know a little about a subject, AI knows a lot about it. And if you know a lot about a subject, AI knows very little about it. So I think that it's still at that level where it is the known knowledge, but that breakthrough creative thought leadership knowledge isn't self-sufficient yet. It's paired with human that it makes it very powerful.
In our previous podcast, we were talking about SEO and GEO, so generative engine optimization, and the importance of that human touch, that kind of informational content, and how we have to be putting our own thought leadership onto that. So that talks to what you were talking about.
I
So,
think, sorry,
yeah.
what Darren said earlier about putting the right input into AI, I sometimes also find that if I put an input into AI, sometimes what it throws out at me is not what I expected, which then forces me to adjust my thinking. So I might think it's the right inputs, and then AI will tell me something I didn't expect.
And that's the same with humans, right?
Exactly.
If you give a person an unclear brief,
Exactly.
you're going to get back something you didn't expect.
Has anyone here built a persona in AI and tested their thinking on it?
I was very excited to do personas for one of my clients. They needed a bit of a refresher, and when I put it into the AI, I really liked that it took what we already had and augmented it. And in some cases, I felt like it was completely off. But then you can talk to the AI. So go, this doesn't sound right to me. What if we do it this way? And it pulls out more information than you would, as I think as human beings, we do tend to have our own little bubble in some ways. And with personas, it's important to kind of pull out the nuances of what somebody else might find as a challenge. And that's where I found using AI for personas was really helpful, and in pulling out those little insights that I didn't think.
And could you then ask AI based on that persona, how would this persona that I've just entered respond to this piece of content?
I have not, but now I'm going to.
Okay, let us know the results of that experiment.
Have you? Yeah.
I have tried, but I think that the opportunity to essentially build, Brandon, this is a brief, to be building like AI equivalents of your personas, to be testing some of our theories, is definitely a kind of a business space that we could be using AI in as a agency.
It's a good point, Ellie, because I think we sometimes forget that to talk to AI like a human, and have a conversation with AI. And recently I was working on an AI chatbot, and we wanted the bot to engage, ask a question, and then answer following the question. And my first response was, I don't think you can do that. But it can if you tell it to. And I think that that's what a lot of people like, where they scratch the surface of using AI, they put that prompt in and then stop there. But I think if you continue prompting it, and I mean, I've gone down a rabbit hole, and the prompted, then at the end it was mess of weird things that probably didn't relate. But it's still like almost having a conversation with another human being.
So I find it really interesting that if you're building on projects and you're building up that history, you can always ask it to rationalize that. And if you look at
Yeah.
Copilot within HubSpot, and you are pulling that sort of unstructured data together and looking for insights on a client or on a project or on a communication that's surrounding that client, it's very powerful to give you a synopsis of what people have been thinking, and then you can validate that with the people that are involved. So it shortcuts that process, and you don't make a snap decision based on one email or one telephone call. You've got all of this unstructured data, and you're getting the whole picture in a very succinct and efficient way. So it removes that bias of going, oh, the last email that you sent was out of line, or the client is overreacting, because you have a bigger picture and more in a more accessible way.
And you don't only see your engagement with that client. I think that the beauty of having the AI built onto your CRM is that there's potential that there's been multiple people engaged with that client. And when Copilot is giving you that summary, it's not going to just take it from your perspective, it's going to take from the perspective of all the engagements. So the reaction might 100% not be to you, it might be to another experience that you've got no experience of yourself. So I think that's quite a powerful functionality. I wanted to ask a question, and I suppose Brandon, Marlene, you guys can kick this off. But when you evaluating AI tools, and Brandon, you've said this endlessly around, like, what are the criteria that you would use to indicate that this is a tool to either integrate or worth exploring? Because the explosion of AI tools and the explosion of tools that you can integrate into your tech stack has grown.
Yeah. I think, if I can weigh in on that, I mean, there isn't a straightforward answer. It's difficult because there's so much going on in the world of AI at the moment. Anybody who logs on to LinkedIn or X once a day will know that it's effectively impossible to keep up with all of the developments and things like that come through. And so I think what's important is, in your endeavor to pick out tools worth investing time in, is to cut out the noise. And probably the best way to do that is to start the way that we started this conversation, which is to remember what it is that you're trying to achieve and why. Like what is the problem that you're trying to solve? I think what you want to avoid doing is picking up shiny new things just for the sake of picking up shiny new things and applying AI just for the sake of applying AI. You see that a lot. Like it almost becomes this echo chamber of I use AI more. Or like, no, I use AI more. And I don't mean within a business. I mean just within the world at large at the moment, in businesses and things like that. And it's you don't buy if you imagine that you're at school, okay? When you think back to when you're at school and there's a popular group of kids, and a popular group of kids is all wearing one kind of sneaker. So you go, cool, I need to get that sneaker too. And you go and buy it, and then you realize that those kids who are wearing that particular sneaker were rugby players, and you're actually a cricket player, and now you've got the wrong shoes on, It's to, remember your purpose, I think, is an important one. And then the other thing that I think is important is to look at the tools and the platforms that are tried and tested, and to understand, like, I think it's important for people who are evaluating these tools to have some level of understanding of the way the loading are built. Because what you tend to find is you get these really sort of widely adopted platforms, the bigger platforms out there. So talking about like Anthropic and OpenAI and Google and all of those, the journey from an image generation perspective. And there's a couple. There's a couple of really, really big ones out there, and a lot of tools that people pay large sums of money for already just built on top of those platforms. And that's okay, because if they're built well and they're solving a problem, and then it's, probably financially more sensible for you to go down that route rather than building it yourself. But it does mean that you sometimes end up with 100 versions of exactly the same tool. But in some of those cases, you don't know what's happening to the data between you putting it in the front end of a tool and it ending up in OpenAI's ecosystem, something like that. So, stick with the tools and the platforms and the vendors, I guess you could call them, that are tried and tested where possible. And where you decide to branch out, because you should experiment and you should push the boundaries a little bit. Just keep your data in mind, and the privacy surrounding your data. So take a look at, very often, like privacy policies on these platforms will indicate what other tools are involved in the background. So check that out, and really question whether it's worthwhile paying a subscription fee for a tool where you could perhaps build a custom GPT, that could do the same thing, or an agent, like obviously agents have been a big topic of discussion lately with agent.ai and Dharmesh's platform. So I guess that's how I would put it. Remember your purpose. Look at the tried and tested tools, and evaluate the different ways that you could solve the problem that you're trying to solve, because perhaps it doesn't actually require yet another tool in the tool stack, because we all know how that goes.
So I think that can run away from you really quickly. You can just layer tools on top of tools. And a term that I haven't seen bandied around yet, and I expect it will come soon, is ROAI, return on AI investment. Because I think a lot of people are diving in and investing in AI. And I think financial people are going to start asking the question, and business people are going to be going, okay, but what are we getting back from this, right? It's cool. We're playing with this. It was fun for a while, but it's got to start generating revenue, or it's got to start saving money. So how is this actually delivering value for the business? And I think that's critical. Right? Is like, we've got to be going, how does this genuinely solve a business problem versus how does this just make us smile? And I think that's where we are at the moment with AI. Is like originally it was like, look what it did, and now it's like, well, that's worn off. The toddler is now no longer as cute as it was. Now it's got to start washing the dishes.
Molly?
Yeah, so if I can just add on to what Brandon was talking about. So you're not to jump on the shiny new trend because everyone else is doing it, but to also keep the security and governance in mind. Luckily, with a CRM and AI tech stack like HubSpot, we have safe and secure integrations and stuff baked in. For example, yesterday I built the coolest paid media ads with the AI report generator, and I was struggling, not going to say how long, but I was struggling to build a specific report for another agency, and I was typing it in there. Luckily, we had all those integrations in place, and we were able to pinpoint all the data sets, so that was very cool.
Yeah, to add on to Darren's comment about or over AI, I'm not 100% sure that's catch on there. And also, something to keep in mind that I think we see more and more of now is a lot of these tools, particularly the tools that are built on top of platforms like OpenAI. Pricing models are slightly different to what we've historically been used to, because we kind of used to paying $10 a month for a tool, or $20 a month, and that still happens a lot. But what we see a lot now is consumption-based pricing as well. Particularly if you do go straight to the source, platforms like OpenAI, and effectively any of the APIs that you use on bigger platforms like Google Cloud and things like that. It's consumption based, so you've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to understand how that works, because otherwise you can land up with a much bigger bill than you thought you were going to have.
It's like forgetting to turn your roaming off when you're traveling.
Yeah.
Darren introduced it, but you've all touched on it, is around, what is a business problem? And Brandon, you also said it. So what are the business problems that you all see in the different areas in which you work that AI is going to be able to help businesses solve?
It's all volume and data based. So AI has the ability to process massive databases and data sets. So obviously your visualization, so cleaning up data, but more than that, like taking raw data from external systems and transforming it and giving it into a real usable output. That's where I see the biggest impact from the type of work that I do.
So when a couple of years back you spoke about data being the new oil, I think was even more so now.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because probably 10 years ago we were doing a lot of work, and the term at the time was big data. Everybody wanted big data, and I always just asked the question why. And when you went, like, people were like, we need the data, and I said, why? And they were like, well, because everybody, like, we need data. But what are you going to do with it? What's the outcome of this? And I think that's what AI is allowing, is that the use of that data is now in the hands of the people that are doing the work. So the marketer, the sales team, it doesn't have to go through a data analysis. It doesn't have to go through a data processing engineer or external software to make sense of it. You can get your hands on it in the tools that you use every day and find insights and take action against that data and experiment to see if it's having the results or achieving the results that you set out to achieve. So I think it's accessibility of data and insights for me that is really powerful.
It's what Darren mentioned earlier. It's all about efficiency. I think that in history, technology has advanced us from an efficiency perspective. But with AI, I think where the world needs to be a bit more careful is there's a difference between efficiency and laziness. So I think AI is going to be really, really powerful for businesses to cut out the smaller, repetitive admin tasks that a human being doesn't actually need to do, and give those human beings more time to do their actual work. But it's really important that businesses understand the fact that efficiency does not equal laziness. People can't stop doing their jobs. And I see that often with clients when they get a CRM. They expect it to do everything, and you have to remind them, but salespeople still have to sell. It's not going to sell it for you. It's just going to make it quicker to communicate and to write an email and to, like Darren said, get a summary of what's happened in your system. So it's all about that, making sure that your business is using AI in a way that's going to productively make things more efficient and give people more time to do the things that human beings need to do.
No, that's interesting, Sharon, because I think also, Ellie, from that question that you asked, some of the use cases in AI, because I think what will basically make a huge impact is agentic AI. More of, because I'm thinking of it from a social media point of view, where putting together a calendar, so you can actually with agentic AI, you can actually train the AI to actually do those specific steps to put together, let's say, a calendar, or maybe to actually write a social media post. And then obviously, like you said, it doesn't mean that it does the entire work for you. You still need to come back and curate the work that it has done. So I think agentic AI is definitely something that will make a huge impact in terms of like increasing efficiency and also cutting out some of that repetitive tasks that we normally do.
I think what you point out there is really, really important. Is the world is going to turn more to, we already have, AI to assist with content, but we have to be sure that we have inputted a brand voice or a personality into that content and the uniqueness of what's in our minds. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's going to spit out the same generic piece of content. And we are already in a world where there is more content than any one person can consume. And if we end up spitting out the same generic content across the board, we're going to get lost in the noise. So that's already core one, is going, if you're using AI to augment your processes and make you more efficient, don't forget that what's in your brain is what people want to know, not what the AI is going to spit out. So it's important that you curate that content.
I think we also need to, with everything you've said, remember that like with tools like HubSpot AI allows for A/B split testing across social media posts. I saw an update yesterday, I think, for landing pages from HubSpot. And Motsi, you and I did that very cool AI community management where the AI was able to answer the social post. So yeah, I think if used purposefully, then AI can really work.
Like everybody, well, at least there was a stage where everybody was worried about AI taking their job. And the truth of the matter is that I think AI is not going to replace you. At least not most people. That's somebody who knows how to use AI might.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Brenda, this whole thing of that people are going to lose their jobs because of AI is true if you don't innovate, right? If you don't move ahead of that, right? So, my mother worked as a legal secretary, and her core skill was being able to do shorthand. So she could take notes very quickly and reproduce what was said in the meeting. That role has been obsolete in business for 30 years, 40 years, I guess. But those people, so she had the intellect where she could probably easily have been a lawyer. But in her era, that wasn't possible for a woman, potentially, who came from her background. So that's where she was placed. But if we have technology that does it, it allows everybody to level up and to be doing more valuable work than they would be doing ordinarily.
Well, and I think to that point, you see it a lot now with, Brandon, I think you would understand this, is that people who could not code are now using AI to help them code. I use AI to help me build formulas in Excel spreadsheets. That's an entire job. And exactly like you're saying, it's about that innovating on top of that, because people who are in the same position and are not willing to change or see AI as, like you said earlier, an additional team member, are going to get stuck and are going to end up being the people that get replaced with AI.
And I think both those instances you gave as an example for coding, coming up with formulas, it's exactly the same as what Darren was saying about, you actually have to know quite a lot around AI to also make sure that is valid.
Exactly.
Right? But I think that somebody said as well about the importance of the using of AI. Brendan, I think you said it, right? You're not going to lose your job, but somebody who understands AI might take your job. And so that poses a question, I think, around how do individuals like future-proof themselves for AI, right? I mean, it's here. It's kind of not really in the future, so it's kind of present and future-proof yourself, because I think there is a conception that to be able to use AI, you have to be able to code to some degree. So things like, how complex is it to build a custom GPT? HubSpot's got a really cool workbook that you can download. How complex is it to learn how to prompt? How complex is it to be able to use the variety of tools like Claude, Verse, ChatGPT, with
Perplexity.
Gemini, Perplexity, and so on. Because I think it can feel a little overwhelming for people. So you've got to start, but where do you start?
And I think it's a generational thing. Sorry, Brandon, but if we look at, these are the things that we're grappling with, but the next generation, so your kids, Sharon, will come through having a natural affinity for AI. So at Singularity U, we were exposed to a learning agent. So it's agentic AI that each child in a classroom will have their own teacher. So some children learn differently, and the AI has the ability to learn how the child responds to the message that they're trying to give. So the curriculum that needs to be taught will be taught to the child in a way that they are most receptive to it. It will speak to them in the language that they want to be spoken to, and they will develop at a faster pace. And that's how they will learn, and that's how humanity will evolve, because this next generation is coming through. And if you think that our parents don't get technology, man, we're in for a picture.
It is a natural progression, right? And it will happen. And I think as a species, we are somewhat averse to change by instinct. 3,000 years ago, substantial change probably meant that you and your family weren't going to eat anymore, or get hunted by some cave creature. So it's kind of ingrained in us that when these changes that feel really big come along, that it's kind of scary. But it is natural, and it's happened in the past. Calculators didn't replace mathematicians, but they did completely change the way that mathematicians worked, and maybe they meant that some people who were on the fence about becoming a mathematician decided not to, and went and did something else, and it all became a natural part of kind of the economics of the world. And the same thing will happen here. As much as I talk in jest about saying, AI won't replace you, but somebody knows how to use AI. Well, there may be some jobs that will get replaced by AI, but it'll just create opportunity in other areas, and it'll be uncomfortable for a little while for some people, perhaps, but on the whole, I think it's pretty natural, and I think it's very positive. And to answer your question, Eddie, about how to really prepare yourself for that, I think, the simple answer and my instinctual answer is just dive in. Just try something. Just get started. But even that, I think for some people who may have no idea where to begin, can be intimidating. And to that, I would say, think about it as an assistant, a human assistant, if that helps you to picture it in your head. What are the kind of tasks that you would give to a human assistant who didn't have to sleep, didn't have to get paid, didn't have to eat, you don't have to worry about their feelings. What would you give to that person? And then go, maybe that's a good starting point. And if it's, writing simple code. I come from a dev background, so I feel like I have to mention that, like, developers have been handed a gift from the gods, basically, in the form of tools like ChatGPT and GenAI, and it's not going to replace developers. I mean, developers get very, very in their heads about where it's going to go and how dramatic it is, but it is incredibly powerful for those who choose to use it. And I mean, that's a good example. Maybe you're a developer and you go, cool, how do I use this more? Like, what are the kind of tasks that you would assign to an intern or a junior developer, and pick a tool and pick a Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that, and give it a bash. Because realistically, the only way you're going to learn is by trying. Because it's the truth is, there are people out there you can speak to who will be able to teach you these things, because there are people who are interested in it, like those of us in this room. But the reality is, most of the world is also learning right alongside you. So it's kind of hard to map it out, but just use the stuff, just try it out, and you'll figure out what works and what doesn't work and what you want to experiment more with. Because I think, to get to my point, Ali, on your question, just bringing yourself into the know is the best way to prepare yourself. And the only way to do that in this case, it's really practical, hands-on experience, and it's accessible. The last thing I'll say is just, I was really like in very much in agreement on one of Darren's previous points. When you mentioned the accessibility thing, AI is not new. Okay, like if anyone's ever touched on the AI thing, and like universities and stuff like that, like they've been teaching this stuff for the last 50, 60, 70 years in some way, shape, or form. And frankly, a lot of the concepts are the same, exactly the same terminology, same underlying principles. It's just that with tools like ChatGPT and OpenAI, it became instantly accessible and understandable to people, and it brought that utility others and people in white coats and into the hands of mere mortals like us. So that's my answer after all of that.
I think if I can just add to it, Brandon said, and to steal a phrase from Darren, the answer to the question is stay curious, is always go in and figure out what else AI can do for you and for your business. And sorry, Brandon, but I always say please and thank you to AI, because when it uprises, I want them to know I was kind. But it's about, like Brandon said, the making sure that you see your AI as your way of getting. So a good example is a lot of people now ask AI instead of going to Google and get those responses. And we've seen a lot of that for clients, where a lot of the website traffic is now coming from AI. So it's not just a tool that's going to help you write something better. It's also a tool that's going to help you explore and be more curious. And I think that's another way of looking at it, and another way of future-proofing, if you will, your comfortability with AI.
A really good podcast to listen to is Marketing Against the Grain by HubSpot, and they spend quite a lot of time talking about AI. That's worth listening to as well. So that was a good segue to HubSpot and HubSpot AI. So there's been lots of change in HubSpot with AI, with Breeze, with agents. And I thought we should just spend a little bit of time on that. Use the AI extensively, from when it was a lightning bolt and could change the tone of a sentence or write a letter description for you, through to what we've got now with the agents. And the way I did it was, I did what Brandon said, is I just dived right in. But from all of you, you work with different customers, you all have different roles. What are your favorite HubSpot features? What do your customers love? What have you done? I mean, Marlene, you and Mortzel spoke about some work that you've done. I think if you can just share with people some of the really great eureka moments that we've created.
With HubSpot Breeze, I think from a social point of view, we've seen that having it in HubSpot really does help to make sure that the posts that you're crafting stay on brand. Because I think that's one of the biggest thing for me that I've seen being very useful. And also having Dolly, which is an image generation tool from OpenAI, integrated into HubSpot, really does help in terms of like quickly turning out those images that you will need for your post, and also the post copy that goes along with that. So I think having the social agent within HubSpot really does help to with regards to efficiency and making sure that like you are able to generate posts within a short period of time. So I think for me, from what I've used it for, it has really helped me in terms of like crafting those social media posts. And along with that, I've seen recently that HubSpot has done a new update where you have a listening feature now, where you can actually be able to see what your followers or people on social media generally are saying about your brand, and you can actually be able to generate responses, which I really think is quite cool because you can quickly respond to those. So I think those updates from a social media agent point of view have really made an impact, and I think we'll continue seeing those because I think there's still a lot of room for us to actually be able to use those AI generated responses, not just from a listening point of view, but also from a comment and also from a inbox point of view. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of those new updates being added in there.
Yeah, and even from a content recommendation point of view, the SEO integration with SEMrush now produces recommended content and topics that you're missing out on. So that's quite cool for a content strategy.
I think to follow on from Motso's comment, the help desk in HubSpot. So everyone in this room knows I'm completely in love with the customer agent that is essentially an AI chatbot. And like I said earlier, you can really teach it to respond. But what makes it really powerful is that at some point, somebody might want to go in and speak to a human being. And what the help desk does, and it does this not just with the AI bot, but any kind of responses, is it prompts the agent, the human being agent, with an answer to give to the person. So your support team, to Motso's point, start to build a more cohesive voice. And that's something we all see and we all find frustrating when interacting with brands, is the disparate experiences with different departments, and this person said that. But with the AI, especially in HubSpot and adding your brand voice, it actually helps your business stay on brand, and it prompts your team to give an answer. So the team doesn't have to use the answer, but I think it reminds them of the tone to use, and it adjusts that for them. So for me, I think what HubSpot's AI is doing from a service perspective is, in my opinion, game changing, and really something that businesses should be looking at as a way to consolidate that single view of the customer.
Yeah, I think that's important, Sharon. So that it comes back to efficiency, right? And that's not just internal efficiency, but it's efficiency for your customers. So if a customer can find the information that they want and self-service in their own time, it delivers a much more cohesive and frictionless customer experience. So if we can just make the information more accessible, then we have a more delightful customer experience. The area that I'm finding it's incredibly powerful in is in the sales space, and using the transcription tools. Now, transcription has been available in AI tools for a while, right? So you could transcribe it, and there's dozens of it. But having that data, having that transcription linked to the contact record, and being able to interrogate that so that you can coach a salesperson, or you can shorten your reply cycle to customers and make sure that you deliver accurate, on-point information, is incredibly powerful.
And how it can structure some of that unstructured data in the transcript is so powerful. You know, you can be looking for keywords within calls. I think that I found really, really useful as well.
Yeah, including the activities. I mean, using all of that unstructured data, pulling it into customer success dashboard, which gives you the unit value, or customer value, like depending on the industry that you're in. It's really important for success managers. Yeah.
And I think, Ellie, I mean, we are in HubSpot every day, as I am. And I think what you asked earlier around clients is what I love about my job every day is when I get to show these things to clients. And the fact that something that we see as so small, they like feel like we have solved all of their problems with one.
You had it with translation. I had it with text to audio on a blog post.
Exactly.
You know, it's literally you've got one click and a
Translation.
couple of minutes and you've got the functionality.
That translation tool, I mean, if you are a business that operates in multiple languages, the efficiency around that is off the charts. And for me, it's that eureka moment when you see that client like light up and be like, wow, I've been wanting to do this. And I mean, I had a client say that to me the other day, when I showed them something with the agent actually, they went, we've been trying to do this forever.
Yeah.
And now we can. And I think that's what the power is.
And I think one of the functions that we don't use enough or we don't show our clients enough is the function of the co-pilots in HubSpot.
Yeah.
Because that is much more internal, conversational on understanding, like you were saying, the unstructured data, you know, that Darren, you were saying you use it for summaries. But being able to prompt and learning how to prompt co-pilot based on your CRM, simple reports, as opposed to going to find a list or go find the report that's going to tell you the number of people in a list or organic traffic to a certain page is now literally a sentence away.
Yeah.
And that is just so quick and easy. You don't have to kind of use a list or a report or a limited number or create a filtered view, or you need the answer, you need it now. You only need a snapshot in time and there you got it.
I think with the co-pilot, very cool. Well, what I like about the co-pilots and what I find clients love about the co-pilots is it helps you prompt. So that is the biggest issue. And the question we get all the time is, how do I prompt an AI to give me the information I want? And with Copilot, what HubSpot have done is they built that in. So it gives you the pre-built sentence, and you just inputs your own specific details. And I think that that's helping people learn how to prompt as well. And that is, for me, a big thing, especially for clients who are using HubSpot to augment their departments. You know, we all know that sometimes having a full marketing team is not feasible, especially if you're a startup, and having HubSpot help you with your social media content or help you, you know, filter out information or build a report, it makes a difference.
And I think, I don't have to tell anyone in this room, but I think it's really important to say is that it's all built on the quality of the data in your CRM and understanding the data flow and the structure and the properties in your CRM. Because if you're going to ask a question, you have to know exactly what property you want to pull it from. You have to understand the objects. You have to be confident that the data is valid and clean and your duplicates are managed. And I think, I mean, from an automation point of view, there's big opportunities there, but it's like any AI, right? You've got to have the solid data, and I think that definitely applies to your portal and all the data in that.
No, definitely, because if you consider there's also AI for workflows.
Yeah.
but you would hate to rewrite some of your data if it's not clean. So, yeah.
Yeah, AI is not a band-aid.
No.
Good AI is only as good as the data that you put into it. It's only as good as your processes. If you're talking automation, it's only as good as your prompting, as Sharon mentioned. If you drive a petrol car, you can put diesel in it and it'll run fine until it blows up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think one overall last question, and then I got 3 quick fire questions. So, how do we future proof? So, for AI.
I think we must consistently be giving a closed feedback loop, because that's how the AI algorithm learns about your business and for the rest of the people in the world.
Okay.
That's one thing. Yeah.
So sorry, just for the people listening, how do you do that?
It depends which platform you're in, but like, let's say for argument's sake, you're using HubSpot AI, there's a little like this mic button.
Okay.
That's what you
Yeah, and it's actually, now that I think of it, the standard, I think, for AI.
I think sometimes in ChatGPT will ask.
Yes, but
I think it's the same as treating people. If Ellie gives me information and I don't respond, she doesn't know if that was valid or not. And if I go, yeah, she's I'm okay. So it's a simple feedback to go, thank you, this is good, or actually,
Yeah.
no, you've missed a boat here.
How well did I do? So, no, that description of that workflow.
Yeah, and I've
Vertically, is listening will leave the Aaron's gestures up to the imagination.
I think that's something that most people don't realize is when you're finished talking to the AI, it often says, how did I do, or let me know if you need anything else. And just saying, no, thanks, that was good, is closing that.
Yeah. I would say the best way to future proof as an organization is to create a culture of learning and experimentation. I think I've said a lot that there's a certain irony in the fact that we live in an age where everything is about technological advancement and new tools and crazy things, but actually the converse of that is that it really highlights the value of the human beings. And I think that although it's all going to change in 6 years from now, probably 6 months, 6 weeks from now, maybe next week it'll all be different. But people will always be there. And so if you can create that culture of, learning and experimenting as a standard approach, and I guess that comes back to the whole stay curious thing. That's future proofing for me. Today it's AI, tomorrow it could be something else, who knows?
And I think that that's another level of future proofing, is remembering that you're not going to have the exact same experience now in 6 months that we're having right now. And as a business, you have to have things in place that allow you to be agile and make a change if you need to, and shift with what is coming. And I think that businesses that process, mentioned it, I'm all about the processes. I love my process, but a process has to be able to allow for something to augment that process or come in and make some changes to that process. Because if you're too, he puts that stake in,
But
a
a process should give you freedom
exactly.
because you're not worrying about what next.
Process is your skeleton, and what you build on that process needs to be able to shift and change as you grow, as your business grows, or as technology changes.
So to add to what you were saying, Brandon, about culture of learning, I think for me to future-proof is also a culture of diversity. And I think that's also important in AI. I think there's a danger in anything of having quite a narrow focus. And in order to stay curious, I think it is by exposing yourself to diverse situations, diverse people, diverse skill sets, and that's what keeps your curiosity going. So I think that like even a diverse environment is an important backbone to that. So, Darren?
I think that's something that we've driven hard at Spitfire is that, the culture of learning and the culture of asking questions, but also making sure that that's democratized. So it's not one person that has to go off and innovate. It's if you're in the work and you see a problem, figure out how you could solve this and then share that with others so that they can learn from your experience. Because if you keep your learning to yourself, and I think that's the new age that we're in, is like the democratization of knowledge and the sharing of knowledge allows us to all be future-proofed. Whereas if you keep your knowledge to yourself, you are limited to your immediate circle, the people that you can touch. Whereas if you share it, the impact is huge.
Marlene, what do you want to achieve with AI?
I think Darren is gonna throw something at me if I don't say efficiency. I want to be able to work and deliver solutions faster for clients so that I can spend more time on their strategy and data opportunities. So it's things like the documentation for portals, doing that faster, being efficient in ERDs, those type of things.
Brandon, what do you want to achieve with AI?
I think I like to help people achieve more, both for themselves and for those around it. We use the term eureka moments, and I think that it's that realization that you can always do more than you think you can.
Darren?
I want to conquer the word. And so I want people to have more joy. And I think that when people have tools that can do the rote work for them, work becomes more joyful. And I think we can deliver more joyful experiences for customers if they don't have to struggle to get what they need. So if we can go like AI should deliver joy, then it's going to be really purposeful.
That's right.
So, guys know me, but for me, it's about being faster. And I think that comes to the efficiency, right? So I, like Darren says, I want to delight my customers at every step. And I want to be able to give them what they expect in a timely manner. And I think using AI allows me to do that in a much faster way. But then slow down when I need to. But yes, the ability to take that information that's in my head and put it down in a way that's going to then spit out 5 key points that I can then share and move on to the next one.
What's on?
I think for me, it's more around, like Darren has been saying, efficiency and also sparking a new idea. Because I think with AI, once you input a prompt, you get so many ideas. So I think it's being able to generate those ideas quicker and also having the ability to create a like more purposeful solutions for our customers or for our clients, and also being ahead as well, because I think that's another thing with AI, because so much is changing in AI. So I think AI actually helps us to be ahead of the game and be in a know of what's happening and what's changing, and so I think that's
Right now building an agent that will find all the most relevant insights on AI that will you just something that's going to keep you ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon.
So my answer to my question is, I think, courage, because I think that with AI, with efficiency, with joy, like with helping people get eureka moments. Like, I think that diving into AI is going to give people more courage. And I think that Marlene spoke about A/B testing. And I think we should always be A/B testing, right? We should always be looking for answers. Should always be asking questions. Yeah.
Alphabet test.
Yeah. You always got to start with a question, right? But sometimes we don't have the courage to ask the question or look for the answer. And I think that AI hopefully will allow us to do that. That's my one. Okay. Brandon, how do you see the ROI of AI being measured?
Can I fake an internet connection? But not only financially. I think that's the first thought that comes to mind. I mean, I guess ROI is definitely financial. I mean, but I think that I always think that if you're doing it right, it's not immediately obvious from a financial perspective. I think for me, ROI becomes about, the number of new ideas that come through from the team and the people pushing the boundaries, I think that it's a little bit more implicit in my mind, if that makes sense.
Right?
So I think there's some very clear and direct measures of it, right? So you could go, can I get, if you're taking a very narrow view on a deployment, can I get more done with less effort? And I think that's very easily measurable. But I think what we should really be looking at as business is not the return on investment of AI, but the cost of inaction. So what is the missed opportunity rather than what is the return on the current investment? Because I think that's going to be exponentially greater. Because if you deploy AI correctly, or not correctly, if you experiment with AI and you make it successful, you will be achieving a lot more than you would without it. And I think businesses that don't run the risk of becoming obsolete.
Anyone else want to throw anything in the ring?
And I think just to add to what Darren said, I think that what's the ROI or ROE, return on efforts, around AI might not be immediate. You've got to also think about, as a business, what are the effects if you don't embrace AI as you build and wait till the future, because you'll then be behind as a business. You'll be behind your competitors. You'll be behind everyone else. And I think that there are those types of people that like to be the first to test things out. They sign up for all the betas and they want to be in the know. And then there's those that go, well, I'm not going to update my iPhone until I've seen all the bugs come out. But the problem with that is that then you're behind everybody else. So it's also going, what is the investment of doing this now versus doing it later?
Last one. Gonna start with Darren. What is one thing you would give AI right now?
Like if AI could follow me around and just like execute all the thoughts that were in my head, that would be awesome. Does anybody else?
No, it's a bit of a interpretation of AI in that context.
So, like, if I could make sure that all of the things that I have to do are taken care of so that I can free up time to be doing the stuff I want to do, that's what I would like AI to do.
So that feeds into your ROI, where you say you want to get more done. So the question really is, what do you do with that time? And that time is what Brandon was saying, it's around ideas generated. Okay, Sharon?
So obviously everyone, talks about giving AI admin and, all the little things. But I think that if I could give AI anything, it would
Looking after your children.
So yeah, cooking me dinner. If I could get AI to cook me dinner, but I think that it's um. So I still think that we're not using AI to its fullest. And I think that, for example, with me, I actually don't use AI to search. I still go to Google, and
So
then
what would you give AI?
I would give AI my knowledge in my head so that I could translate. So training material. I think that that's what I want AI to help me with, is translate my what do they call, like, my brain.
Yeah, so it helps you articulate your thoughts.
That's what I'm looking for. It's been a long day.
No, I think for me, it's more around like task management. Like for an example, having a conversation with someone and you know that the task that you can do from that conversation, having AI to pop up in my notification, say, hey, remember you have this task. Did you book that time? And so forth. So I think for me, it's more around having that agent that follows me around, listening to my
PA.
a PA basically, just listen to conversation.
Okay. Sharon, yours also sounds a bit PA like.
No, it's definitely a PA.
To clone myself. No, I'm kidding. I would love AI to log my time.
Yeah, logging a time, that's a real one. Yeah. Did you go, Brendan?
I didn't, and I just want to point out that it really sucks being at the end of the line of these questions because Dan and Marlene both stole my answer. So there's a hefty amount of money on someone who builds an AI tool that can log my times for me. Help my salary. No, yeah, I mean, honestly, I know it's a boring answer, but admin's for me. I mean, maybe it's a personality thing, but I like terrible at admin, emails, time logs, that kind of thing. So anything that makes life easier from that perspective, I'm game.
Mine's going to be a non-work one. I would like AI based on what I want to cook to give me the recipe and the shopping list and put it into the Checker 60 app so that I don't have to sit there scrolling. So it's almost like operator, right?
It's your PA.
But yeah,
Home PA.
that's what I would like.
Shopping agent.
Yeah,
I was
shopping
shopping agent.
Yeah.
I just wanted to cook for me.
Yeah, no, cooking's fine. It's like trying to find the stuff online, comparative pricing, all of that.
I think it all comes back to doing those monotonous tasks that you don't like. That you sit at night going, did I remember to put that in the shopping cart? Now I want to sit at home going, what if I tell ChatGPT this?
What's interesting is that pretty much everybody here has a very similar take on what a monotonous task looks like.
There is something else that I currently use AI for all the time.
That you do or that
I
you...
do at the moment, and I think we could all do it more. And that's to brainstorm,
Yes.
to bounce ideas off. Right? I can't always find the time to sit with a colleague and flesh out that idea, but you can test that idea with AI and do it. But I think I could be better at it. So I'd like to give AI more opportunity to be a better friend.
I think AI could be a better colleague to me in some ways because I use AI quite a lot. I have to approve a lot of content. And I get AI to give me, not summarize it, I use that for Brandon's 43-minute videos. But if I get a piece of content to approve, I take what the wireframe or the brief was, what the objective is, what the journey is, I feed it all in, and I go, please can you review this content, tell me if there's anything missing, tell me if there's anything added, and then I'll have read it first and I'll go, I think that it should include XYZ. And it will read it, it will give me I think it's an opinion on it, and then it goes, I agree, you could put this, or it goes, that's already covered here. And I find AI really, really useful as a content editorial assistant. It's quite a cool way that I've been using AI.
Oh, we're allowed to say what we don't want it to do.
Yes.
I don't want AI to do art.
Yeah,
I
not the
really hate the AI art. And like for me, there's something really meaningful about human art. And I think that I've tried it and I could just, there's no soul.
It's very true. I think I don't mind if I needed to generate like a bland, just, oh, I need a background for this, give me some squiggly lines. But if I mean, if I talk about something and then I end up with a goat with two heads, it's just,
I'm happy with it to do design. Like, design
No.
for work is fine, but like art, expression,
yeah.
I think I don't want it to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, as a musician, I'm fortunate that it's a little bit further behind in the music department than it is in various other aspects of art. But to add on to that, I would not like AI to replace human interaction. I don't even mean in a physical sense, although that goes without saying. Even in business sense, communicating by email. And maybe I'm yet to adjust as much as I should, but I sometimes feel let down when I get an email that should be meaningful that is clearly ChatGPT generated.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that the same is true for clients how big auditors. So, use the tools, absolutely use the tools, encourage each other to use the tools, but don't forget to be a person at the same time.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. So I think that's a good end, because I think that's exactly what you said there, that last sentence. Like, use AI tools, but don't forget to be a person. And I think that goes back to how we started, which is, what is the purpose and how do you keep it human? And I think that really wraps up what we were going to say. So thank you, everybody, for the time and the conversation.
That was a fantastic conversation we just had. So thank you so much to our guests, Darren, Sharon, Marlene, and Brandon, for a very impactful conversation we just had. So remember to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast to stay updated.